Look at your wall clock, the calendar on your desk, or your signed apartment contract. Long before Rome or Egypt, the blueprints for these invisible systems were drawn up 6,000 years ago in a desolate, unforgiving strip of land. For most of human history, our ancestors lived in reaction to their environment. They moved constantly, hunting and foraging, their daily survival dictated by the shifting moods of nature. This map shows the ancient Near East. Between the Tigris and Euphrates lay a landscape of extremes. Unpredictable rivers could wash away entire settlements. Caught in this geographic trap, food sources thinned as populations grew. Retreating was no longer an option. The Sumerians chose to stop running from the water and instead met the floods with engineering. They pooled their collective labor to dig canal networks and construct mud brick dams, forcibly redirecting the rivers. These massive irrigation projects required thousands of people working in synchronization. The city-state emerged as a necessary survival tool, a way to organize and maintain the landscape at a scale one village couldn't manage alone. This colossal mud brick ziggurat once stood at the center of Uruk. It was the world's first true metropolis, housing tens of thousands of people behind kilometers of towering, sun-baked walls. But living at this scale created a cognitive crisis. With constant trade, taxes, and agricultural tithes passing through the temple daily, it became impossible for the human brain to track exactly how much grain or livestock belonged to whom. Look closely at this piece of clay. To solve their data crisis, Sumerian merchants began pressing sticks into wet mud. They were storing information outside of the human body for the first time. The grid-like compartments and repetitive marks show a system designed for audit trails. These early inscriptions served a purely administrative function, tracking inventory and debt through rigid accounting. Over time, literal pictures of wheat and goats were simplified into abstract wedge-shaped symbols. By standardizing these marks, they created a system that could record complex transactions and eventually the passage of history. Writing acted as an external hard drive. It was a tool invented to outsource human memory, allowing society to expand far beyond the limits of biological recall. When power shifted north to the Akkadians, Sargon of Akkad sought to unite these independent city-states into a single empire. But military force alone could not keep such diverse tribes synchronized. Sargon appointed his daughter, Enheduanna, as high priestess. She composed religious hymns that blended Akkadian and Sumerian gods, using these shared beliefs to psychologically integrate conquered cultures into one system. Centuries later, the Babylonians recognized another reality of governing. King Hammurabi realized that managing a massive population required its members to have predictable expectations for behavior. This 2-meter-high black basalt pillar contains Hammurabi's solution. He ordered 282 laws to be carved in stone and placed in public, standardizing the consequences for human actions. While these laws enforced stark class inequalities and physical punishments, their value lay in their permanence. They established that the rules of society were fixed, replacing the local whims of a king with a public, documented system. Written law acted as a psychological boundary. It signaled that a large society could only function if human behavior faced absolute, known consequences. The Assyrians evolved in a more hostile environment to the north. Surrounded by enemies on rocky, arid land, they developed into a hyper-militarized society where survival required constant aggression. This stone relief captures their method of control. The Assyrians utilized industrial-scale psychological warfare, using public torture and mass exile to broadcast a policy of total terror. The organized posture of the soldiers in this relief suggests the calculation behind the violence. By ensuring rumors of their brutality traveled faster than their armies, they made enemy cities surrender through fear before a battle even started. But fear-based control has an expiration date. The deep resentment the Assyrians generated eventually united their enemies, leading to a coalition that burned their capital and erased the empire. During Babylon's later resurgence, King Nebuchadnezzar used architecture to project might. He built fortifications like the Ishtar Gate, using bright blue glazed bricks to display the city's immense wealth and restored status. Yet when the Persians arrived, Cyrus the Great took the city without attacking its walls. He ordered his troops to divert the Euphrates River, allowing them to walk directly into the city center through the empty riverbed under the cover of night. Once in power, Cyrus issued a decree recorded on this clay cylinder. He granted his new subjects religious freedom and the right to maintain their own customs. By allowing groups like the Jews to return home and rebuild their temples, Cyrus secured his borders by making his subjects invested in the survival of the Persian Empire. This transition showed the different life cycles of power. While the Assyrian machine collapsed under the weight of the hatred it generated, the Persian model managed to hold diverse territories by reducing the friction of occupation. Today, the ziggurats, the Assyrian war machines, and the walls of Babylon have largely crumbled. The great cities of the Near East returned to the mud they were made from. But while the physical stones disappeared into the desert, the systems those people designed became the operating framework for modern life. We still live by Sumerian math. Their base 60 counting system is the reason we measure 60 seconds in a minute and divide a circle into exactly 360 degrees. Consider our modern schools, our reliance on written records, and our expectation of legal predictability. They all trace back to the innovations of this 4,000-year window. Every time you glance at a watch, sign a contract, or rely on a regulation, you're using survival mechanisms invented between the rivers.